The Galactic Council convened for the first time in 200 years. Representatives from conquered species, neutral civilizations, and emerging powers gathered in the ancient chamber on the neutral world of Traxxas. And for the first time ever, a human stood at the central podium. Ambassador Sarah Chin, former scientist, looked out at the assembled alien species. Behind her stood Captain Jennifer Walsh and Commander David Park, living symbols of humanity's transformation. "We did not seek war," Sarah began. "We sought only to survive. The Vorathian Empire came to our world and demanded submission. We refused. They attacked. We defended. They sent thousands of ships to destroy us. We captured their vessels and sent them home defeated." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The story of Earth's defense had spread across the galaxy. "The Empire calls us a threat. They're right to be afraid, not because we seek conquest but because we represent something they cannot tolerate: free will. The right to choose our own destiny. The courage to fight impossible odds." "You've destabilized the Empire," the Vorathian ambassador interrupted. "Rebellions are spreading across 40 sectors because of your example." "Good," Sarah said simply. "Maybe those species deserve freedom too. Maybe the age of empire is over, and the age of cooperation is beginning. Humanity didn't defeat the Vorathians to replace them. We defeated them to prove that the strong don't have the right to dominate the weak. That technology doesn't grant moral authority. That any species, no matter how small or young, has the right to stand up and say, 'No. We will not kneel.'" She paused, letting her words sink in. "Humanity offers alliance to any species that wants it. We'll share our technology, our tactics, our strategies, not to build an empire but to build a coalition of free worlds. Together we can reshape this galaxy into something better than it has been." Ambassador Quellen of Zyroth, whose crystalline form glimmered in the chamber light, stood slowly. "My world was conquered 200 years ago. We submitted because we saw no alternative. Humanity showed us there is always an alternative. Zyroth formally requests alliance with Earth and petitions for protection against Vorathian retaliation." "Request granted," Sarah said. "Welcome to the coalition." One by one other species stood. Some seeking protection. Others seeking trade. All seeking the one thing the Empire had denied them: hope. By the time the session ended, 27 species had joined the coalition. The balance of galactic power had shifted. Later, Sarah stood with Walsh and Park on an observation deck, looking at the stars. "We've made a lot of enemies," Park observed. "And a lot of friends," Walsh countered. "The Vorathians will come back," Sarah said. "Next time with more ships, better preparation, new tactics. This isn't over." "No," Park agreed. "But they'll find us ready. We're building new ships with captured technology. Training more enhanced personnel. Establishing alliance networks. When they come back, they won't be facing one world. They'll be facing a coalition." "Think we can win?" Walsh asked. Sarah smiled, the same fierce smile she'd worn when she told Admiral Kethvar that Earth's answer was no. "We're human. We survived ice ages and plagues. We split the atom and reached the stars. We've spent our entire existence fighting impossible odds and winning. The Vorathians thought we were weak because we fight among ourselves. They didn't understand that all that conflict made us better fighters, better strategists, better survivors." She looked at her companions, enhanced soldiers who represented humanity's next evolution. "They ordered Earth to kneel. We rose instead. They tried to break us. We broke their empire. They thought we were primitives. We taught them that humanity doesn't measure power in years of civilization or size of empires. We measure it in will, in adaptability, in the absolute refusal to give up." "So what happens now?" Park asked. "Now?" Sarah turned back to the stars, a galaxy full of opportunities and challenges. "Now we show them what happens when humanity stops fighting itself and starts reaching for the stars. We're not conquerors. We're liberators. We're not builders of empires. We're builders of alliances. And if the Vorathians don't accept that?" Sarah's smile turned cold. "Then we teach them the same lesson we taught their admiral. When you threaten humanity, you don't get compliance. You get war. And we've had 10,000 years of practice making war. We're very, very good at it." In the darkness of space, captured Vorathian vessels underwent retrofitting. Human engineers and enhanced specialists worked alongside alien allies, combining technologies, sharing knowledge, building something new. The galaxy had changed. The age of empire was ending. The age of coalition was beginning. And at the center of it all stood humanity, young, fierce, and free. The species that refused to kneel. The species that rose when ordered down. The species that shattered an empire's galactic control by the simple act of saying no. They had been underestimated. That mistake had cost the Vorathians half a fleet and their reputation for invincibility. The next species to threaten Earth would not make the same mistake. But by then humanity would be even more dangerous, even more advanced, even more impossible to defeat. Because that was what humans did. They adapted. They evolved. They survived. And they never ever knelt. Earth itself, Dr. Sarah Chin stood in the command center of the International Space Monitoring Coalition. The facility, buried beneath the Rocky Mountains, had been operating for only 2 years, a compromise between rival nations who finally agreed that space monitoring needed coordination. "We've got something," her colleague Marcus Washington called out. "Multiple gravitational anomalies. 14 light hours out and closing. They're decelerating." Sarah's heart hammered. This was it. The moment humanity had feared and prepared for since the detection of the Vorathian Empire's radio leakage 5 years ago. The major powers had been scrambling ever since, building in secret, hoping for more time. "Activate the emergency protocols," Sarah commanded. "Give me the Security Council. All of them." Within minutes, screens flickered to life. Presidents, premiers, and generals appeared. For once, no one argued about authority or territory. The external threat had accomplished what centuries of diplomacy could not, unity born from survival instinct. "They're here," Sarah said simply. 300 signatures. Vorathian classification. "They'll be in orbit within 18 hours. The Chinese premier spoke first. "Are the defensive platforms ready?" 70% operational, replied General Okonkwo from the African Union. "We hoped for another year." "We work with what we have," the American president said. "Activate. Kethvar of the Vorathian Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our civilization. You have 1 rotation of your planet to surrender unconditionally. Disarm your weapons. Transmit your surrender to our fleet. Prepare to welcome occupation forces. Compliance will be rewarded. Resistance will be met with total annihilation. You have been warned. You have been given mercy. Do not waste it." The message ended. Silence fell across Earth for exactly 3 seconds. Then Sarah Chin pressed the response button. "Admiral Kethvar," she said, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. "This is Dr. Sarah Chin, speaking on behalf of the unified nations of Earth. We have received your message. Our response is simple. No." In the Vorathian flagship, officers froze. Kethvar's 4 eyes widened. In 6,000 conquered worlds, in 3,000 years of expansion, no species had ever responded with a simple, flat rejection. "Repeat that transmission," Kethvar demanded. Sarah's face appeared on the view screen. Young by human standards. Defiant. Unafraid. "No," she repeated. "We will not surrender. We will not submit. We will not kneel. If you want Earth, Admiral, come and take it. We'll be waiting." The transmission ended. Kethvar stared at the empty screen. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders. Finally he spoke. "Destroy their satellites. Target their military installations. Show them what defiance costs. Begin the bombardment." The Vorathian fleet moved into attack formation. Deep beneath Earth's surface, Sarah turned to her team. "Phase 1 complete. They think we're primitives making a suicidal gesture. Let them keep thinking that. General Okonkwo, activate the orbital platforms. Marcus, wake up the fleet. Let's show these bastards what humanity has been building." "With pleasure," Okonkwo replied, entering activation codes. In orbit, what the Vorathians had dismissed as debris and primitive satellites suddenly changed. Panels fell away. Power cores ignited. Weapons systems came online. Humanity's true defenses had just revealed themselves. "Everything. Recall all personnel to hardened facilities. If they're coming to talk, we negotiate. If they're coming to conquer, we make them regret it," Sarah finished. The Vorathian fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Their ships were magnificent, crystalline structures that bent light around them, powered by captured stars, armed with weapons that could crack planets. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. "Scan the planet," he ordered. "Locate their leadership. Prepare the ultimatum broadcast." Sensors swept across Earth. They detected the scattered military bases, the primitive satellites, the communication networks. Kethvar's mouth split into what his species considered a smile. "Open all channels. Let them hear the voice of their new masters." The broadcast began. Every radio, every television, every connected device on Earth suddenly carried the same message. The translation was perfect, delivered in every human language simultaneously. People of Earth, I'm Admiral. The Varathian bombardment began with precision. Particle beams lanced down from orbit, targeting what their scans identified as military installations. The first beam struck a desert facility in Nevada. The facility's shields activated instantly. Admiral Kethvar watched the readouts with confusion. What is that energy signature? Unknown, Admiral, his sensor officer reported. The installation is protected by some form of directed energy barrier. Our beam is being dispersed at 98% efficiency. Impossible. Their technology level cannot support that kind of power generation. Nevertheless, Admiral, the facility stands. Kethvar's confidence wavered for the first time. Increase beam intensity. Target multiple sites simultaneously. I want. His command was interrupted by alarms. Multiple launches detected. Coming from the planet's surface. On screens across the bridge, hundreds of missiles erupted from hidden silos. But these were not the primitive rockets the Varathians had observed in their surveillance. These missiles accelerated at impossible speeds, their trajectories changing unpredictably. Evasive action. Kethvar ordered. Activate point defense. The Varathian ships released clouds of defensive drones. Energy nets formed between vessels. But the human missiles were unlike anything in the Empire's database. They didn't fly in straight lines. They dodged. They weaved. They adapted their approach with each defensive measure. The first missile struck a Varathian destroyer. The warhead detonated in a burst of focused antimatter. The destroyer's shields held for 0.3 seconds before collapsing. The ship split in half, atmosphere venting into space. Report. Kethvar roared. 7 ships damaged, 1 destroyed. The missiles are using adaptive AI guidance. They're learning from our defensive patterns in real time. That level of artificial intelligence should take centuries to develop. On Earth, Marcus Washington watched the battle readouts with grim satisfaction. First blood to us. The neural network missiles are performing beyond expectations. Sarah stood beside him, monitoring the strategic display. Don't celebrate yet. We bloodied their nose. Now they'll get serious. How long until our orbital platforms are fully charged? 3 minutes, Marcus replied. The fusion cores are still spinning up. They won't give us 3 minutes. Okonkwo launched the second wave. Make them think we're desperate. General Okonkwo nodded. Conventional strike package deploying. It won't hurt them, but it'll keep them busy. In space, Admiral Kethvar regained his composure. 1 ship lost. 7 damaged. Acceptable losses for the shock of first contact. Now he understood the situation. The humans had been preparing. They had hidden their capabilities. Clever but ultimately futile. New orders, he commanded. Forget the surface installations. Target their cities directly. I want a demonstration of power they cannot ignore. Select their largest population center and prepare a planetary bombardment lance. Admiral, that will kill millions, Commander Zyla protested. And save billions from the pain of prolonged resistance. It is mercy. Kethvar turned to his weapons officer. Charge the lance. Target coordinates. Their city called Shanghai. 24 million inhabitants. We erase it and they will understand their place. The Eternal Dominion's main weapon began to charge. Energy pulled from the captured star at its core, channeled through crystalline focusing arrays. The lance could punch through a planet's crust. Against a city, it would leave nothing but glass and ash. Charging at 40%, the weapons officer reported. 60%. 80%. Sarah's console screamed warnings. They're charging a heavy weapon. Target signature indicates. Christ. It's aimed at Shanghai. Time to impact? Marcus demanded. 90 seconds when fully charged. The platforms aren't ready. Sarah's mind raced. Millions of lives. 90 seconds. The platforms were humanity's ace, but they needed more time. Unless. Open a channel to the Varathian flagship. Now. The communication officer looked shocked. Ma'am? Do it. Seconds later, Sarah's face appeared on Kethvar's bridge. Admiral, wait. Kethvar regarded her with cold disdain. Dr. Chin. Have you called to surrender? I've called to give you one last chance to withdraw peacefully. The Varathian admiral laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Your bravado is impressive. But in 60 seconds one of your cities dies. Then another every hour until you submit. You cannot stop us. You're right, Sarah said quietly. We can't stop that weapon. But we can make you wish you'd never pointed it at us. Empty threats from a dying world. Are they? Sarah's expression hardened. Tell me, Admiral. How many of your ships have their shields facing toward Earth right now? All of them, naturally. And how many are watching what's coming from behind you? Kethvar's blood froze. Scan the outer system. Now. The sensor officer's voice cracked with stress. Multiple contacts emerging from the asteroid belt. Dozens of them. Admiral, they're warships. Human warships. Impossible. On the tactical display, they appeared like wolves emerging from the darkness. 40 human vessels, each one bristling with weapons. They had been hiding in the asteroid belt, cold and silent, waiting for this exact moment. Fleet Alpha, this is Chin, Sarah transmitted. You have weapons free. Protect Shanghai. Show them what happens when you threaten human cities. Commander David Park, aboard the UHSV Defiance, allowed himself a cold smile. All ships target the flagship. Railgun batteries rapid fire. Missile tubes full spread. Let's introduce ourselves properly. The human fleet opened fire. Railgun rounds, tungsten carbide penetrators accelerated to 0.3% light speed, crossed the distance in seconds. The Varathians, still focused on Earth, had no time to reorient their shields. The first salvo struck the Eternal Dominion's rear quarter. Shields that could deflect energy weapons were designed to absorb and disperse. Kinetic weapons at relativistic speeds didn't care about energy dissipation. They simply kept going. 12 rounds punched through the shields. 6 struck armor. 3 penetrated to interior decks. Atmosphere vented. Power conduits exploded. Damage to decks 17 through 23, a Varathian officer screamed. We're venting atmosphere. Shield generators 2 and 7 are offline. Kethvar gripped his command throne. Abort the bombardment. All ships turned to face the new threat. Where did they come from? The asteroid belt, Admiral. They must have been building in secret, hiding among the rocks. The human fleet pressed their advantage. They moved like a coordinated pack, their formation fluid and aggressive. Each ship protected the others. When Varathian vessels tried to target one, 3 others would strike from different angles. These tactics, Commander Zyla said in wonder. They're not fighting like primitives. They're fighting like predators, Kethvar finished. The battle evolved into chaos. The Varathian fleet, designed to overwhelm with superior numbers and firepower, found itself fighting an enemy that refused to follow predictable patterns. Commander David Park watched his tactical display with the focus of a chess master. His ship, the Defiance, was the fleet's command vessel, but not its strongest. That was intentional. Let the enemy target the wrong ship. Status on the Shanghai strike? He asked. Aborted. The flagship's still reeling. They won't be firing that lance anytime soon. Good. Alpha Wing, execute pattern Delta 7. Beta Wing, feint toward their carrier group, then break and hit their flanking destroyers. Make them think we're scattered. Sir, that's going to put Alpha Wing in a crossfire. Only if they're where the Varathians expect them to be. Trust the plan. The human ships moved in seemingly chaotic directions. To Varathian sensors it looked like panic. Kethvar saw his opportunity. Their formation is breaking. Cruiser wings 3 and 4, advance and divide them. We'll crush them piecemeal. The Varathian cruisers surged forward, cutting between the human ships. But the moment they committed, the human vessels executed simultaneous course changes. The scattered fleet suddenly became a closing trap. Now, Park commanded quietly. Alpha Wing, which had appeared to be fleeing, suddenly decelerated and reversed course using thrusters the Varathians hadn't known were there. Beta Wing, instead of engaging, had been deploying something in space. Hundreds of small objects that the Varathian sensors had dismissed as debris. Those objects activated. Mines? A Varathian officer shouted. They've seeded the combat space with. The mines were elegant in their simplicity. Each one was a sphere of liquid metallic hydrogen under magnetic containment. When a Varathian ship passed within range, the containment failed, and the hydrogen flash vaporized, expanding with devastating force. 3 Varathian cruisers vanished in silent explosions. 2 more suffered critical damage. The neat formation became a dying cluster. Impossible. Kethvar snarled. How did they develop such weapons? How did they build all of this without our knowledge? Commander Zyla pulled up the intelligence reports. Admiral, our surveillance focused on their public infrastructure. We monitored their governments, their military exercises, their communications. But, According to these reports, massive amounts of their industrial output went to their space programs. We assumed it was for scientific exploration and primitive colonization attempts. We were wrong. They were building a war fleet. How long? The construction signatures suggest they've been building for 5 years. Since they first detected our empire's expansion. Kethvar felt something unfamiliar, doubt. 5 years. In 5 years, these primitives had gone from basic rockets to warships that could challenge Varathian vessels. What would they be capable of in 10 years? 20? On Earth, Sarah watched the battle with fierce pride and terrible fear. Pride because humanity was holding its own. Fear because they were burning through their reserves at an unsustainable rate. Ammunition status? She asked. Marcus consulted his readouts. Railgun rounds at 60%. Missiles at 42%. The orbital platforms are fully charged, but once we fire them, they need 6 hours to recharge. And the Varathians still have 290 ships to our 40. True. But we're faster, more maneuverable, and they don't understand our tactics. We're not fighting the way any species in their empire fights. Sarah understood. The Varathian Empire had conquered 6,000 worlds, but every species they'd absorbed had been similar, advanced in technology but predictable in warfare. Formal fleet engagements. Shield walls. Massed firepower. The established doctrine of galactic civilization. Humanity had no such doctrine. They had learned warfare from each other, thousands of years of humans fighting humans. Deception. Misdirection. Ambush. Adaptation. Every culture on Earth had contributed to the tactical database. Sun Tzu and Clausewitz. Khalid ibn al-Walid and Napoleon. Jayap and Zhukov. The Varathians were facing the combined military genius of an entire species that had perfected the art of killing its own kind for millennia. And now, united for the first time, that genius was focused outward. The orbital platforms are ready, Marcus reported. Do we fire? Sarah hesitated. The platforms were their biggest guns, 30 mass drivers that could accelerate projectiles to 5% light speed. But each shot drained their capacities completely. They needed to make them count. Not yet. Park is doing well. Let him draw them in further. When they commit their reserves, we hit them. In space, Kethvar made his decision. All ships advance. Overwhelming force. We'll accept losses to close the distance. Once we're within their defensive perimeter, their tactical advantage disappears. The Varathian fleet surged forward as one. 300 ships moving in concert, a wall of metal and energy. Park saw it coming. They're done being clever. Full retreat all ships. Pull them toward the platform's firing solution. Sir, if we retreat, they'll interpret it as weakness. Good. Let them. The human fleet turned and accelerated toward Earth, the Varathian armada in pursuit. To Kethvar it looked like victory. The humans were breaking. Running for the protection of their homeworld. Full pursuit, he ordered. Don't let them reach planetary defenses. Destroy them in open space. The chase continued for 8 minutes. The human ships stayed just ahead, occasionally firing backward to slow the pursuit. The Varathians pressed on, hungry for the kill. Sarah watched the tactical plot. Distance to optimal firing solution? 30 seconds. 20. 10. They're in the envelope now. Fire everything. 30 orbital platforms fired simultaneously. 30 projectiles, each massing 10 tons, accelerated to 50,000 kilometers per second. At that speed, the kinetic energy of each round was equivalent to a nuclear weapon. The Varathian fleet had no warning. The rounds arrived 9 seconds after firing, faster than their sensors could track, faster than their shields could adapt. The impacts were catastrophic. Shields designed for energy weapons offered minimal resistance to solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The rounds punched through ships like paper. 16 Varathian vessels were destroyed instantly. 23 more suffered critical damage. The beautiful formation shattered into chaos. Turn and engage. Park ordered. All ships target the wounded ones. Finish them before they can retreat. The human fleet reversed course and fell upon the disorganized Varathians like wolves on wounded prey. The battle became a melee, exactly the kind of fight where human adaptability and aggressive tactics excelled. Kethvar watched his fleet dying and made the hardest decision of his military career. All ships retreat. Jump to rally point Theta. We withdraw. Admiral, we still outnumber them. And they're slaughtering us. We withdraw, regroup, and inform the sector command that humanity is not what we believed. Move. The surviving Varathian ships broke contact and began jumping away, leaving their damaged vessels behind. The battle had lasted 43 minutes. Humanity had won the first engagement. But Sarah knew this. The chamber fell silent as Admiral Kethvar's report concluded. Lord Admiral Vesktara, Supreme Commander of the Varathian Empire's military forces, stood motionless at the center of the War Council. His 4 arms remained folded, but his eyes blazed with cold fury. "You lost 94 ships," Vesktara said slowly, "to a species that achieved spaceflight less than 100 cycles ago. They were prepared, Lord Admiral. They had built." "Prepared?" Vesktara's voice cut like a blade. "Our intelligence divisions had 5 cycles to assess this species. 5 cycles, and they failed to notice an entire battle fleet being constructed. Someone will answer for this failure." Around the circular chamber, representatives from conquered species watched carefully. Among them was Ambassador Quellen, a crystalline being from Zyroth. His world had been absorbed into the Empire 200 cycles ago. His species had fought briefly, then submitted when they understood the futility of resistance. Now, watching Kethvar's humiliation, Quellen felt something unexpected: hope. "What tactical patterns did they employ?" Vesktara demanded. Kethvar activated the holographic display. Battle footage played above the assembled council, human ships moving in patterns that defied standard doctrine. Ambushes, feints, coordinated strikes from unexpected angles. "They fight like nothing in our database," Kethvar admitted. "Every species we've encountered uses similar tactics: shield formations, massed fire, predictable maneuvers. The humans fight as if every engagement is unique. They adapt in real time. Show me their casualties." The display changed. 4 human ships destroyed. 7 damaged but recoverable. Estimated personnel losses, 900. "They traded 900 lives for 94 ships and 47,000 of our personnel." Vesktara processed the numbers. "That's a kill ratio of 52 to 1. The council members shifted uneasily. Such numbers were unprecedented. "I want full mobilization of Sector Fleet 7, Vesktara ordered. 3,000 ships. I will personally lead this force to Earth. This time there will be no half measures." "Lord Admiral," Ambassador Quellen spoke up, his crystalline voice chiming. "Perhaps diplomacy should be attempted. If the humans have such capabilities, they might be valuable as allies rather than subjects." Vesktara turned his cold gaze on Quellen. "The Empire does not have allies. It has subjects. The humans will learn this or they will die. There is no third option." On Earth, the victory celebrations were muted. Sarah stood in the Situation Room, surrounded by exhausted staff. They had won the battle, but everyone understood the implications. "Intelligence reports are coming in," Marcus said. "Our deep space probes intercepted Varathian communications. They're sending a larger fleet." "How large?" 3,000 ships. "And they're bringing a Lord Admiral. That's like their supreme commander. They're taking us seriously now." Sarah felt the weight of those numbers. 3,000 ships. Humanity had 40 operational vessels, and their orbital platforms needed time to recharge. The math was brutal. Time until arrival? Based on their jump drive signatures, 6 days. 6 days to prepare for extinction-level assault. Sarah turned to the assembled military leaders. "Options." General Okonkwo spoke first. "We fortify Earth orbit. Concentrate all our forces in a layered defense. Make them pay for every kilometer." "That's a siege defense," the Russian Admiral Petrov countered. "We'll be trapped. They'll surround us and bombard from beyond our weapon range. Then we meet them in open space," suggested Chinese Admiral Liu. "Hit them before they reach Earth." "With 40 ships against 3,000? Marcus shook his head. "That's suicide." "All our options are suicide," Sarah said quietly. "The question is which suicide buys us the most time and costs them the most." "Time for what?" Petrov asked. "We don't have reinforcements coming. This is everything we have." Sarah pulled up a classified file. "Not everything. Project Prometheus. We've been accelerating it since the battle. If we can buy enough time." "Prometheus isn't ready," Okonkwo interrupted. "The simulations show a 60% chance of catastrophic failure. And even if it works, we don't know what the side effects will be." "What is Project Prometheus?" Liu demanded. "I've heard rumors, but the details are classified above my level." Sarah looked at Marcus, who nodded. "Time for the truth. 5 years ago, when we first detected the Varathian Empire, we started preparing. We built a fleet. We developed new weapons. But we also started looking at humanity itself, trying to understand what made us different. Why we adapted so quickly. Why our innovation rate exceeded prediction models. She pulled up brain scans, genetic sequences, neural pathway maps. We found something. A specific combination of genetic markers and neural structures that appears uniquely in humans. It's why we're so good at pattern recognition, abstract thinking, and rapid adaptation. Other species have pieces of it, but we're the only ones with the complete package. What does this have to do with Prometheus? Petrov pressed. Prometheus is an enhancement program. We're using tailored nanotech and directed neural stimulation to amplify these natural abilities. We've been testing it on volunteers for 2 years. The results are extraordinary. Enhanced reaction time. Improved tactical thinking. The ability to process multiple combat scenarios simultaneously. You're talking about human enhancement, Lou said. Creating super soldiers. I'm talking about survival. The 1st Battalion of enhanced troops is ready. 3,000 soldiers who can think faster, move quicker, and fight harder than any human in history. But we need more time to produce them in meaningful numbers. How much time? If we can hold for 30 days, we can have 20,000 enhanced personnel. 60 days we can have 100,000. Enough to crew new ships, enough to turn the tide. You're assuming we can hold for 30 days against an empire that's conquered 6,000 worlds, Okonkwo said. Yes, Sarah replied. That's exactly what I'm assuming. Because the alternative is surrender, and we've already given our answer to that. The room fell silent. Then Lou spoke. So we need a strategy that holds for 30 days minimum against impossible odds. Exactly. Marcus pulled up star charts. What if we don't fight them at Earth? What if we make them chase us? Hit and run across the solar system. Force them to split their fleet to hunt us. Every day we survive, more enhanced troops come online, more ships finish construction. A fighting retreat, Petrov mused. Use the entire solar system as our battlefield. It's been done before in human history. The Mongols couldn't conquer Russia because the Russians kept retreating, burning everything behind them. We don't have much to burn in space, Okonkwo pointed out. No, but we have asteroids, gas clouds, orbital mechanics. Sarah's mind was racing. We make the solar system itself hostile to them. We know every rock, every anomaly, every hiding spot. They're newcomers. We're fighting on our home ground. It could work, Marcus said slowly. But it would require perfect coordination and absolute commitment. One mistake, one ship. That gets caught and they'll learn our patterns. Sarah looked around the room at these leaders from different nations, different cultures, different histories. 6 months ago they would have been rivals. Now they were humanity's last hope. Can we do this? She asked. Can we trust each other enough to execute a coordinated retreat across 6 billion kilometers of space while an empire tries to exterminate us? General Okonkwo smiled grimly. Dr. Chin, my ancestors were hunted across continents. Admiral Lu's people survived invasion after invasion. Admiral Petrov's nation survived enemies that should have destroyed them. Commander Park's people were written off as finished dozens of times. We come from survivors. It's what humans do. Then let's survive this too, Sarah said. Give me the fleet commanders. We have 6 days to turn our solar system into a death trap. Lord Admiral Vesthera stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Inexorable Truth, and watched the blue world grow larger in the view screens. Behind him, 3,000 warships formed a net across space, enough firepower to sterilize 100 worlds. No sign of their fleet, Lord Admiral, his sensor officer reported. The planet appears undefended. Impossible. They have ships. Where are they hiding? We've detected mass movement in the asteroid belt, near the orbital path of their 4th planet. Multiple signatures. Vesthera studied the tactical display. The 4th planet, a red dead world they called Mars. How many signatures? Difficult to determine exactly. At least 30, possibly more. The asteroid field is interfering with our sensors. They're hiding among the rocks. Clever but ultimately pointless. Vesthera turned to his communication officer. Send to all ships. Battle Group Alpha will blockade the 3rd planet. Battle Groups Beta and Gamma will proceed to the 4th planet and eliminate the human fleet. Battle Group Delta will establish perimeter control. No human vessel escapes this system. The massive fleet split into 4 groups. 2,000 ships moved toward Mars while 1,000 surrounded Earth. On the bridge of the Defiance, now hidden in the shadow of the Martian moon Phobos, Commander Park watched the Vorathian fleet deploy. They're doing exactly what we predicted, his tactical officer said. The main force is coming here, but they've left a blocking force at Earth. 1,000 ships to guard one planet. They're being cautious. Park activated the secure channel. All units confirm status. Across the asteroid belt, hidden among rocks and dust, 47 human ships reported in. Since the first battle, 7 damaged vessels had been repaired and new ships had launched from secret shipyards on the Moon and Mars. Dr. Chin, we're in position. Sarah's voice came through from Earth. The Varathian blockade is holding position at high orbit. They haven't detected our surface-to-orbit strike capability yet. Then let's keep it that way. Everyone ready? Good. Remember, the goal isn't to win. It's to survive and make them pay for every minute they chase us. Park out. The Varathian battle groups approached the asteroid belt with weapons charged and shields at maximum. They expected resistance. They expected a desperate last stand. What they got was worse. The human ships didn't wait to be found. They struck first. From the asteroids, missiles launched, dozens, then hundreds. But these weren't aimed at ships. They were aimed at asteroids. What are they targeting? A Varathian captain demanded. The answer came seconds later. The missiles struck carefully selected asteroids, ones already on unstable orbits. The explosion sent massive rocks tumbling into new trajectories, directly into the path of the Varathian fleet. Evasive action. They're using the asteroids as weapons. The Varathian ships were powerful but massive. Dodging required time and space. The asteroids gave them neither. Ships scattered, breaking formation to avoid multi-ton rocks hurtling at them. In the chaos, the human ships attacked. They emerged from hiding spots, fired concentrated volleys at isolated vessels, then disappeared back into the asteroid field before the Varathians could coordinate return fire. They're using guerrilla tactics. Vesthra snarled. All ships maintain formation. Don't let them separate you. But maintaining formation in an asteroid field while rocks the size of mountains fell around you was easier ordered than executed. The Varathian fleet's cohesion shattered. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 37 minutes. The humans destroyed 8 ships and damaged 16 more before vanishing completely into the asteroids. Find them. Vesthra ordered. Deploy reconnaissance drones. I want every rock scanned. Lord Admiral, they could be anywhere. There are millions of asteroids. Then we destroy them all. Target the largest asteroids and begin bombardment. We'll eliminate their hiding places. For 6 hours, the Varathian fleet bombarded asteroids, turning rocks into rubble. They destroyed hiding spots by the hundreds. But the human fleet had already moved. New contact, the sensor officer reported. Near the 6th planet, the ringed gas giant. Multiple human signatures. Vesthra studied the tactical display. The 6th planet was billions of kilometers from their current position. How did they get there so quickly? Unknown, Lord Admiral. They must have better sublight engines than we estimated. What the Varathians didn't know was that humanity had learned to use gravitational slingshots with lethal precision. The human ships had whipped around Mars, used its gravity to accelerate, then coasted on ballistic trajectories toward Saturn while their reactors powered down to minimal signatures. Battle groups Beta and Gamma proceed to the 6th planet at maximum speed. We will corner them there. The Varathian fleet began the long acceleration toward Saturn. It would take them 8 hours to cover the distance. 8 hours during which humanity prepared their next surprise. On the council chamber of the Varathian Empire stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian floor. Admiral Kethvar stood at the central podium, his 4 arms folded in ceremonial authority. Around him, representatives from 47 subjugated species watched in silence. Today marked the expansion into Sector 447, the region containing a primitive world called Earth. The humans will comply, Kethvar announced, his voice echoing through translation devices. They always do. We have conquered 6,000 worlds. This will be no different. Behind him, holographic projections displayed Earth, a blue and green sphere rotating slowly. Data streams showed primitive nuclear weapons, chemical propulsion spacecraft, and fractured political systems. The Varathian intelligence network had been watching humanity for 3 cycles. They saw nations fighting each other, resources squandered, potential wasted. Commander Zyla, a reptilian officer from the conquered Skreath homeworld, shifted nervously. Admiral, the preliminary scans show unusual neural density in the human brain. Their pattern recognition and adaptability scores are irrelevant, Kethvar interrupted. Potential means nothing without time to develop it. We strike before they unite. Before they understand what they face. The hologram shifted, showing footage of humans at war with themselves. Explosions. Suffering. Division. The council members clicked and hummed their approval. A divided species was easily conquered. It was the Varathian way: find them weak, keep them weak, absorb them into the empire. Dispatch the subjugation fleet, Kethvar ordered. Standard protocol. Demand surrender. Demonstrate superior firepower. Install occupation government. This world will kneel within one solar rotation. The command was transmitted across quantum channels. Light years away, 300 Varathian warships received their orders and began jumping toward Earth. On Earth, Sarah watched the enemy fleet's movement with satisfaction. They're committing to the chase. How long until they reach Saturn? 8 hours at their current acceleration, Marcus reported. Perfect. That gives our people time to set up the surprise. And it gives us time to deal with the blockade fleet here. Deal with them? Sarah, there are 1,000 ships up there. And they're sitting still, thinking they're safe. Sarah pulled up surface installations across Earth. Installations the Varathians had dismissed as primitive. It's time to show them what home field advantage really means. Part 6. Saturn's rings run red. Commander Park guided the Defiance through Saturn's rings, using the ice particles as cover. Behind him, the human fleet spread across the ring system, a structure so vast that you could hide entire fleets in its depths. Status on the weapons platforms? Park asked. Lieutenant Hayes checked her readouts. We've deployed 47 autonomous defense stations throughout the rings. Each one is programmed with adaptive targeting. The Varathians will read them as navigation hazards until they power up. And the minefield? 3,000 mines positioned at calculated intervals. They'll look like ring particles until something with a Varathian energy signature passes within 50 meters. Park allowed himself a small smile. Saturn's rings were 90% water ice, harmless to scanners, impossible to distinguish from human-made objects without detailed analysis. The Varathians would see a natural phenomenon and hundreds of human ships. They wouldn't see the forest of weapons hiding in plain sight. The Prometheus Battalion is ready, reported Major Sarah Kim, leader of the 1st Enhanced Human Combat Unit. She stood at attention, but Park could see the difference in her. Her eyes tracked multiple screens simultaneously. Her response time to information was instantaneous. The enhancement had made her faster, sharper. More than human, yet still human. How are your people adapting to the modifications? Park asked. Better than expected. The neural improvements are extraordinary. I can process tactical scenarios at speeds that would have taken minutes before. My team reports similar experiences. We're ready for combat. You'll get your chance. The Varathians will be here in 3 hours. This is where we make our stand, not to win but to break their confidence. To make them understand that every step into our solar system costs them blood. Lord Admiral Vesthara watched Saturn grow in his view screens. The ring giant dominated the view, a beautiful, cold world. Somewhere in those rings the human fleet waited. Sensor reading? He demanded. We detect 43 human vessels distributed throughout the ring system. No formation, no apparent coordination. They appear to be attempting to evade rather than engage. They're running out of space to run. Seal all exit vectors. Battle groups Beta and Gamma will sweep through the rings from opposite sides. We'll crush them between us like insects. The Varathian fleet, 2,000 strong, moved to envelop Saturn's rings. It was a textbook encirclement, overwhelming force, coordinated approach, no escape routes. Begin the sweep. Weapons free. Destroy anything that moves. The Varathian ships entered the rings. Almost immediately their sensors were flooded with targets. Ice particles, rocks, debris, and somewhere among it all, human vessels. Target discrimination is difficult, Admiral. The ring particles are interfering with targeting systems. Then use visual confirmation. Every human ship we detect, I want 3 ships assigned to destroy it. Overwhelming force at every encounter. The first Varathian cruiser detected a human vessel, the destroyer Relentless, and moved to engage. 2 more Varathian ships joined it. The human vessel tried to evade, but it was outnumbered and outgunned. Target locked. Firing. The beams lanced out. The Relentless shields held for 3 seconds, then collapsed. The ship broke apart, trailing atmosphere and debris. Human vessel destroyed. Confirmed kill. Across the fleet, similar reports came in. Human ships were being hunted down and eliminated. Vesthara watched the tactical display with satisfaction. 16 human vessels destroyed in the first 20 minutes. The guerrilla tactics had failed. Numbers always won in the end. Then the rings came alive. The weapon platforms that had been hiding as navigation hazards activated simultaneously. 47 platforms, each armed with railguns and missile batteries, opened fire at point-blank range. The Varathian ships had their shields oriented toward detected threats, the fleeing human vessels. The platforms were behind them, unnoticed until too late. The first salvo destroyed 31 Varathian ships outright. The second wave caught them trying to reorient shields, destroying 27 more. "We're under attack from fixed positions," a Varathian captain screamed. They seeded the rings with weapons platforms. "All ships, new defensive posture," Vesthera ordered. "Orient shields to protect all approaches." But shields that protected from all directions protected weakly from each specific direction. The human vessels that had been fleeing suddenly reversed course and attacked with focused fury. They struck at the weakest shield quadrants, their weapons precisely aimed to exploit the divided defenses. And then the mines activated. 3,000 hidden weapons, each programmed to recognize Varathian energy signatures, detonated in a cascading chain. The ring system lit up with explosions. Ice particles vaporized. Ships that had been using the rings for cover found themselves in kill zones. "We've lost 87 ships," the tactical officer reported. 93. 104. "Pull back," Vesthera ordered. "All ships, exit the ring system immediately." But exiting required exposing engines to enemy fire. The human fleet, coordinated by enhanced personnel who could process battlefield data faster than any computer, struck like surgical instruments. They identified damaged ships, isolated vessels, anything vulnerable, and killed them. Major Kim's battalion performed beyond expectations. Enhanced human marines boarded damaged Varathian vessels using breaching pods. In close combat, their improved reaction times and spatial awareness made them unstoppable. They captured 3 vessels intact and sabotaged a dozen more from within. The Battle of Saturn lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Varathian fleet had lost 372 ships. The human fleet had lost 21. Vesthera stood on his bridge, staring at the casualty reports. Nearly 20% of his force gone. Against an enemy that should have been primitive. Against a species that had reached space less than a century ago. "Lord Admiral, what are your orders?" Vesthera was silent for a long moment. Then, "We return to Earth. We end this now. No more chasing. No more games. We will bombard their homeworld from high orbit until nothing remains but ash." "Sir, the blockade fleet reports they're under attack." "What?" "The blockade fleet at Earth. They're under attack from the planet's surface." While the Varathian fleet fought at Saturn, Sarah had made her move. The 1,000-ship blockade around Earth had grown complacent, assuming the planet was helpless without its fleet. They were wrong. "All surface stations, you are authorized to fire," Sarah commanded. Across Earth, installations the Varathians had dismissed as primitive research facilities opened up. Massive electromagnetic launchers, railguns built into mountains, hidden in valleys, disguised as civilian infrastructure, revealed themselves. The first salvo consisted of 600 projectiles launched simultaneously from 3 continents. They reached orbital velocity in seconds, accelerating to speeds the Varathians hadn't anticipated from surface-based weapons. The blockade fleet had their shields oriented downward, but they were positioned in high orbit, confident in their altitude advantage. The projectiles, launched at calculated angles, came up through their defensive perimeter at extreme velocity. 47 ships died in the first minute. The survivors tried to move to higher orbits, but that exposed them to the orbital platforms that had been recharging for days. The platforms that had actually been waiting for this exact moment. "Fire everything," General Okonkwo commanded from the African Union Control Center. 30 orbital mass drivers fired in concert. The 1-2 punch of surface launchers and orbital platforms caught the Varathian blockade in a killing crossfire. They couldn't shield against both directions simultaneously. Ships exploded. Debris rained across orbital space. The helpless planet had just killed 200 vessels in 15 minutes. "They're retreating," Marcus shouted. "The blockade is breaking." "Don't let them escape," Sarah ordered coldly. "Any ship that entered our orbit with hostile intent doesn't leave alive. Fire until our ammunition is exhausted or they're all dead." The slaughter continued for another 20 minutes. When it ended, only 300 vessels of the original 1,000-ship blockade remained, and they were fleeing at maximum speed toward the outer system. Sarah opened a channel to Commander Park. "Saturn team, this is Earth Control. How are things in your neighborhood?" Park's tired voice came through. We hurt them badly. Lost 21 ships, but they lost nearly 400. They're pulling back. Good. Because they'll be coming back to Earth now and they'll be angry. How long until you can rejoin us? 18 hours minimum. We need to recover our wounded and salvage what we can. You have 12 hours. After that, Vestara will be in Earth orbit with everything he has left, and he'll be trying to kill our entire species. We need every ship. Understood. We'll be there. Sarah closed the channel and looked at Marcus. How many Prometheus enhanced troops are ready? 12,000. Another 8,000 will be ready within 48 hours. We need them now. Accelerate the program. Accept higher risk factors. I'd rather have soldiers who might have complications later than no soldiers at all. Sarah, if we rush it, the neural integration could kill them? Marcus, if we don't rush it, the Varathians will definitely kill them. And everyone else on Earth. Make it happen. Across Earth, volunteers stepped forward. Men and women from every nation, every culture, every background. They knew the risks. They knew the process might kill them or leave them damaged. They volunteered anyway because the alternative was extinction. The enhancement facilities worked around the clock. Nanomachines entered bloodstreams. Neural interfaces integrated with brain tissue. Genetic modifications activated dormant human potential. Some subjects didn't survive the process. Others emerged changed, faster, smarter, more capable than any human in history. By the time Lord Admiral Vestara returned to Earth with his surviving fleet, humanity had 20,000 enhanced soldiers ready for combat. Vestara surveyed the debris field that had been his blockade fleet. 300 survivors from 1,000 ships. The humans had done this while his main force fought at Saturn. We underestimated them at every stage, he said quietly. We assumed they were primitive. We assumed they would fight like others we've conquered. We assumed wrong. What are your orders, Lord Admiral? Commander Zyla asked. Vestara looked at the blue world below. So beautiful. So deadly. His fleet now numbered less than 2,000 ships. He had come with 3,000 and lost more than a third in less than a week. Prepare for planetary bombardment. We can't occupy them. We can't defeat them in ground combat. But we can ensure they never threaten the Empire again. We'll bombard from maximum range. Stay beyond the reach of their surface weapons. Turn that planet into a graveyard. Lord Admiral, that will kill billions. Entire ecosystems will. The alternative is allowing a species this dangerous to continue existing. They adapt too quickly. They learn too fast. They refuse to submit. What happens in 10 years? 20? How powerful will they become? No. We end this threat now, permanently. The order went out. Varathian ships positioned themselves at extreme range and began charging their weapons for sustained planetary bombardment. On Earth, Sarah watched the enemy fleet position and knew what was coming. They're not going to land troops. They're not going to try to conquer us. They're going to try to kill us from orbit. Can we reach them with our weapons? Okonkwo asked. The surface launchers, no. The orbital platforms, maybe, but they've learned to stay beyond effective range. They'll bombard us for hours, maybe days, until our shields fail and our infrastructure collapses. Then we've lost. No, a new voice said. Sarah turned to see a woman enter the command center. A woman who moved with impossible grace, whose eyes seemed to see everything at once. Captain Jennifer Walsh, the first human to receive the complete Prometheus enhancement. Captain Walsh. Your neural integration is only 48 hours old. You should be in recovery. Recovery is complete. And I have a plan. Walsh approached the tactical display. The Varathians think they're safe at that range. They think we can't reach them. They're right about our weapons. But they're wrong about our ships. The fleet won't be here for 10 hours. I'm not talking about the main fleet. I'm talking about the reserve ships, the ones we've been building on the Moon and Mars. 37 vessels, mostly unmanned, designed for one-way missions. Sarah understood immediately. Suicide runs. Load them with enhanced personnel and ram them into the Varathian fleet. Not ram. Infiltrate. At that range, they won't be maintaining combat vigilance. We can approach on ballistic trajectories, power down to minimal signatures, let orbital mechanics carry us into their formation. By the time they detect us, we'll be among them. Then we board, sabotage, and capture as many ships as possible. You're talking about boarding actions against a fleet of 2,000 ships with 37 vessels and how many troops? 8,000 enhanced personnel. 4,000 are rated for combat. The other 4,000 are ship specialists, engineers, pilots, technicians. We take their ships and use them against their own fleet. Marcus stared. That's insane. The boarding process alone is entirely possible with enhanced personnel. Our reaction times are 3 times faster than baseline humans. Our spatial awareness is heightened. Our learning rate for new technology is accelerated. We can crack Varathian systems faster than they can respond. Sarah looked at the tactical display, calculating odds. It was desperate. It was dangerous. It was humanity's only chance. How long until you can launch? 2 hours. The volunteers are already boarding the vessels. Do it. And Captain Walsh, don't die out there. We're going to need people like you when this is over. Walsh smiled, a predator's smile. Plan on it. We didn't survive this long to quit now. 2 hours later, 37 vessels launched from lunar and Martian bases. They accelerated toward Earth, then cut their engines and drifted on ballistic courses toward the Varathian fleet. To Varathian sensors, they looked like debris wreckage from the earlier battles, tumbling through space on natural trajectories. The Varathians, focused on positioning for bombardment, barely noticed them. The human vessels drifted for 6 hours, cold and dark. Inside, enhanced soldiers waited in silence, their improved physiology allowing them to function in conditions that would have killed baseline humans. When the vessels reached the Varathian fleet, they were scattered throughout the formation. 1 human ship for every 50 Varathian vessels. Captain Walsh, aboard the lead vessel, checked her chronometer. All units, in 10 seconds we activate. Remember your training. Remember what's at stake. We are the tip of the spear. Make it count. The countdown reached 0. 37 ships activated simultaneously. Their engines flared. Weapons armed. Boarding pods launched. The Varathians had no time to respond. The human vessels were among them, moving at speeds enhanced personnel could coordinate but baseline crew could not. Boarding pods latched onto hulls. Cutting torches burned through armor. Enhanced soldiers poured into Varathian ships. What followed was a nightmare for the Varathians. The enhanced humans moved through their ships like ghosts, too fast to track, too coordinated to stop. They struck engineering sections, bridge controls, weapons systems. They learned Varathian technology by touch, their accelerated cognition allowing them to understand alien systems in minutes. Within 1 hour, enhanced forces had captured 19 Varathian vessels intact. Another 43 were sabotaged beyond immediate repair. The formation that had been preparing to bombard Earth was now fighting fires from within. All captured vessels, this is Walsh. Transfer control to the specialist teams. Combat personnel, prepare for second wave boarding. We're not done yet. The captured Varathian ships, now crewed by enhanced humans, turned their weapons on their former comrades. Confusion rippled through the Varathian fleet. They were being attacked by their own ships, crewed by an enemy that could somehow operate stolen technology with impossible skill. Lord Admiral Vesthera watched his formation collapse into chaos. How are they doing this? How can they crew our ships? Unknown, Lord Admiral. It's as if they can learn our systems instantly. Our captains report boarders moving at speeds that should be impossible. Using tactics that seem to predict our responses before we make them. They've enhanced themselves, Vesthera realized with horror. They've modified their own biology. No natural species could do what we're seeing. Commander Zyla checked incoming reports. We've lost 72 ships to capture or sabotage. The boarding parties are spreading. Every ship they take they use to reach more ships. It's exponential. Vesthera made his decision. Signal all ships, retreat. Immediate jump to rally point. Any ship that cannot jump within 10 minutes is ordered to self-destruct. We cannot allow this enemy to capture our technology intact. The Varathian fleet began jumping away in panic. Ship after ship vanished into faster-than-light travel. But they left behind 93 vessels, captured, sabotaged, or too damaged to escape. And aboard those vessels, enhanced humans secured their prizes. Captain Walsh stood on the bridge of the captured Varathian dreadnought that had been Vesthera's second command ship. Around her, human technicians worked to understand and control alien systems. Earth control, this is Walsh. Mission accomplished. We've captured 93 Varathian vessels, including 12 capital ships. The enemy fleet has retreated. Earth is safe. Sarah's voice came back, thick with emotion. Confirmed, Captain. You just captured more advanced technology than humanity has developed in our entire history. Get those ships back to friendly space. We need to understand what we've taken. Copy that. Walsh out. She turned to her crew, enhanced humans who had performed miracles in the past 12 hours. Get these ships operational. We've won the battle. Now we need to win the war. In the depths of space, Lord Admiral Vesktharak counted his losses. He had come to Earth with 3,000 ships. He was returning with fewer than 1,800. He had lost nearly half his force to a species that shouldn't have been able to resist even 100 vessels. Prepare a report for the High Council, he ordered. Mark humanity as an apex threat. Recommend immediate mobilization of the entire Imperial fleet. Admiral, the High Council has never mobilized the entire fleet. Not in 3,000 years. They've never faced an enemy like this. These humans adapt like nothing we've encountered. They enhance themselves. They learn our technology. They refuse to submit. If we don't stop them now, they'll become unstoppable. The report was transmitted. Across the Varathian Empire, from the capital world of Vorath Prime to the most distant conquered planets, the message spread: humanity was dangerous. Humanity had humiliated the Empire. Humanity had to be destroyed. But on those conquered worlds, in the shadows of subjugation, other species heard the message differently. The Varathians could be beaten. The Empire could bleed. And somewhere in the galaxy was a species called humanity who had proven it was possible to say no, and survive. The seeds of rebellion had been planted. The Empire's control had been cracked. And it had all started because one species refused to kneel.